Hey everybody, I'm Tarl with Fixated Real Estate. Welcome once again to Analyzing Deals Like a Pro. I'm gonna walk a property with you guys today. This is a very special episode because we're here on site at one of the projects we literally just bought in Tacoma, Washington. This is a 1910 Craftsman home, 1,100 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath with a lot of issues. Now we're gonna convert this home into a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,800 square feet. Now, where do we get that extra 700 square feet? I'm gonna show you guys where we found that extra 700 square feet on this property without adding an addition, without building up any of that crazy stuff, and how we're gonna finish out the basement on this particular project and add that extra square footage. On top of that, I'm gonna go over how we acquired the property and all the questions that we kind of asked to find out more detail, because you'd be surprised how much the actual owners of these homes know about their properties and how it can help you with the negotiation on your next acquisition. On top of that, I'm gonna go over all the pro tips we normally go into. There's some major pro tips I can give you guys on this property today about rehab, floor plans, the numbers, how you guys can negotiate structured deals, and so forth that you guys are gonna really enjoy. So this house here in particular, we bought for $240,000. Now, some of you guys right now, like always, are gonna comment going, oh my God, you're the stupidest human being in the world to buy a house for $240,000 that looks like this, right? But I'll tell you what, this is where comparables come in. This is where you learn your market and where you're at today. This house is worth $240,000 right here in Tacoma, Washington. And we're gonna make it worth $460,000 by the time we're done with it by putting a little over $100,000 of rehab into it. So let's go into it right now. First off, let's talk about acquisitions. Before I get into that in complete detail and tell you all the great stories and tips and tricks, when it comes to that, I'll give you guys one good thing to do. We always do something called a sewer scope before we buy any property. Now, sometimes we do a sewer scope after we've already decided to buy it, and sometimes we do it before when we're negotiating. On this particular property, we did the sewer scope before we started negotiating the deal fully, so we could come back to the seller and say, hey, there's something wrong with your sewer, which means we can negotiate the price down, or there's nothing wrong and we just move on with our lives. This particular house here, the sewer was messed up. So let me show you. So you can see down there, right? That's brand new concrete. Now that's all because of the sewer line. The sewer line starts way over here on this side of the property and to the back, right? Which we'll go to in a minute. And then it goes deep down, obviously, because it's on a hillside and into the street that way. So that increases the cost pretty dramatically just because of how deep it is and also where it needs to go on the street side and crosses over the sidewalk. So if we would have just bought this property and then later found out the sewer was collapsed, that would have been a $7,000 line item that we weren't expecting. But because we did it before we bought it, we were able to negotiate that in with the seller. Just a quick little tip there, always do sewer scopes, especially with older houses. We're gonna circle back on the acquisitions and how we found this property in a little bit. I just wanna get through the exterior, show you guys how we look at the house and where the rehab kind of goes. So first off, obviously it's a normal old Craftsman home. We love the character of the house. We love that it looks really kind of cool on the outside. We can make this thing really shine by doing some simple stuff with the railings, fixing some of the mortar here and so forth on these posts, and also just cleaning it up with a nice paint job and so forth too. I think it's gonna look really good. But come around this house on this side. One of the second things I wanna give you guys a pro tip is that when you start seeing, for lack of a better word, weird shit on a property, then you got to ask yourself a few questions about why is that awkwardly weird thing on a property there? Why did they dig a big trench on the side of the home? Why is there all of this corrugated piping on the outside of the home, right? Somebody didn't just say, I'm bored one Saturday, let me just dig a hole in my property. Some people are weird, they might do that, but this is obviously done with intention, right? And these downspout extensions are obviously there with an intention. So ask yourself the question, why did they do that? Now if you have connection with the seller, you can ask them directly, and if they're honest, they'll tell you why they dug a big trench here. Now, on this particular property, we always do our best, if we can, ask lots of questions to the seller to get the answers because they know best since they're the ones that did the work, right? On this particular one, you had this downspout, which this is not a good spot for it to be going to begin with, just because it's going straight into the hole there. But it used to go into here, to this clay pipe that was a drain that took the downspout water and took it where the hell it went, right? So, however, after the guy bought the property, this went down, and this basement down here, which we're going to definitely get into because that's a big moneymaker down there, was filling up with water a lot more than it usually does because it still got water. Well, that's because the pipe here had a big, huge crack on it, and when there was just pouring rain, it was just pouring water into this area here and feeding in through the window well and going straight down into the basement. He said, the seller said at one point the basement had 6 inches of water in it, and most of it was because of this here. So if we just bought that blindly, we wouldn't know that story, so we're gonna have to fix that as well in that area. And it also tells us there's a lot of water getting to the basement somehow. So when we later go in there, we're gonna show you how we are gonna waterproof that basement, because the last thing you want on a project like this that you're making most of your money on by increasing the square footage on a house by, in this case, we're going to finish the basement out, is getting sheetrock up and all of a sudden it rains and all of a sudden your basement's full of water. That sucks. Has that happened to us? Yes, that's happened to us more than once, which is why we're really, really cautious in the Pacific Northwest about water intrusion in basements. So ask questions, right? How do we know there's water in the basement? We asked the seller. He said he got 6 inches of water. How do we know this, what the problem was here? We asked the seller. They told us, right? And if you don't have that luxury to do that, you got to ask a professional or ask somebody or yourself why this is where it's at. It's not just there on accident. Okay, so the rest of this house, some other things that kind of stand out for us on this particular property is one, this beautiful garage. So at first glance, can you see anything wrong with it? Can you see there might be an issue somewhere on it, right? Now, if we're buying this property and we're thinking the big value add on it, it's got a 2-car garage in the back, then we're gonna have some challenges with the rehab budget right off the bat just by looking at it. We don't even need to go into it. Most of you guys are like, tear that sucker down. Well, sometimes you can save these things. Sometimes they're not so big of a deal. Unfortunately, this beautiful tree that we actually really like, that we're gonna try to do what we can with to salvage some of it, because it's kind of a cool tree. It's all like intertwined and tangled up. It's done a number on this garage. We're not gonna spend a lot of time in here, but I just wanna show you guys why this garage is not really salvageable. So when you get into this side of the property, you see it's got a nice footing all the way over here, right? Well, this tree over here is pushed, it's moved things, it's sunken stuff down. This is all dry rotted out. I don't wanna touch it too much because we're inside the building. All of this sill plate and all of the bottom plate, all of that is just rotted and messed up. Everything on this side of the garage is completely destroyed. And you go onto this over here, you can see garage doors, you can see this, what's holding up, this is great, Alex, look at this. So this beam here is being held up by nothing. Right, you see that? This is where the cutoff of the beam is. There's nothing here holding it up. There's probably some nails that's being held up by this over here, and there's probably toenailed in here somewhere, but a lot of weight is being held up by nothing, and then there's this 2x4 and this little 2x4. So, cool, so that's fun. And you look at the rest of this and the fact that everything's rotted out on the bottom as well. This isn't something that we can just like haphazardly glue back together. This is a teardown of a garage. The amount of money it would take for us to repair this is probably equal to, if not the same, of tearing it all down and building a brand new one. So when we did our analysis on this particular property, we say no garage at all. We're just gonna have to tear it down or turn it into some sort of shed and hope it doesn't fall over. But reality is it's a major, major expense. So double check all your things. Make sure you guys have your rehab numbers in hand. Most of this business, which we forget, we get in this business because we want to make money flipping houses. But when you really get in this business to start looking at flipping houses and doing the BRRRR strategy, you end up spending a lot of your time on the construction and rehab side, and you don't realize how much you need to know about this stuff, or somebody on your team needs to know about this stuff. So that way you don't get caught up on properties like this that you think you could save something, but in reality, it's a major loss. All right, so let's go back into the house, or let's go back to the house and check out some of the other red flags we caught on this particular property. All right, so one red flag right when we're walking in this property or walking out of this door, you can look up on the roof of this house and maybe you can see some different shingle colors on the roofing there, right? This is gonna be important when we go back into the house here in a minute and we go to this part of the property. So remember this, we're gonna note this, but one other question you should ask yourself when you see that is, why are there different colored shingles and why does this look very different than the other side of the property? How come also does it have cedar siding on the side here, but then there's some aluminum siding up top, right, on this particular bump out? Like, why is that? Somebody did that. Was this originally here, or is this an addition of some sort? Because these don't match the rest of the property. So ask yourself those questions too. If something's not matching, if something looks different than the surrounding properties or this particular property itself, it might have been an addition at some point. And was it done right? When we get in there, we're gonna show you exactly how they did that and whether or not it's a good thing or bad thing or if it's gonna cost more money. But always ask yourself questions. And I've said that probably 20 times already to you guys on this video, but it's the big message to get across this. Why is something like that? What made it that way? And you're gonna get so many more answers for yourself and so much more learning experiences on these properties when you solve these questions and you solve these and you find out the answer to these. That's gonna make it easier for future projects too. All right, let's go back. Let's go through the thing. Okay, oh, hey, look at this. So I forgot about that. You see all the fire foam? That's down there too. Typically people do that because of expansion or water or repair or damage or something along those lines. We're not gonna dig into that too much on this video, but that's another thing to look at and red flag to be like, why is that there? Now the rest of the house on the outside, we actually like it, even though if you look up close, you can tell that these type of properties, when they're older, you have a lot of this, right? And you can see all the etching that's inside the siding. And they have a lot of that. And because of that, you know that this is an older house. This probably has 20 layers of paint. It's been pressure washed many, many times. You got to ask yourself, if this is a high-end house, do you leave the paint this way? Or do you have to fill it in and spend a lot of money getting people to actually have to fill this in with wood filler or sand it down or put some sort of Bondo on it to make it smooth, which could be a lot of labor, a lot of cost to do that. And in this particular neighborhood, we don't feel like we need to do that. But if this was in a higher neighborhood, we kind of have to do that, right? Okay, another window that we're gonna have to dig into when we get out onto the basement as well. We plan on putting a bedroom on this side where the basement, so this is gonna become a window well. And window wells usually stick out a lot farther, and also go a lot deeper, of course, so people can get ingress, egress, mostly because of fire situations. You ever feel like you're being watched? Right. Hey, we could save some money on whatever the hell this thing's called. Splash block, there you go. That's good. Saving money left and right. All right, so let's go inside the house. Oh, this is a huge thing we actually forgot about. We didn't even notice this when we first looked at the house. Nice door, keeping that. It's always actually surprising on these properties when we get to keep something on a property because usually we gut it. So this lovely owner actually already painted a lot of this, which doesn't do us any good because we're just gonna repaint it a different color anyways. And sometimes some sellers that you're negotiating, working with, they're like, oh, if I repair this, or if I do that, or if I end up painting the house, can I get more value? And unfortunately we say, well, actually no, because we're gonna redo it anyways, because most of the time we need to do it a certain way we wanna do it for our particular property. So we try to discourage sellers from doing that because they think they raise value, but in reality, we're just gonna tear it out to begin with. So we love the interior of this top floor. So remember, this is 2 bedrooms, 1,100 square feet on the top floor. We love the floor plan up here. There's only a few things we're gonna change. Something that's very popular today. The kitchen's on the other side of this. And we're like, let's knock this out and open up the kitchen. But there's other extenuating circumstances to knocking out walls. You gotta go know what's inside the walls, what's behind them. And this particular one, right around here, right there, doesn't sound hollow. There's a chimney there. These old houses have these big venting chimneys that go all the way in the basement, go all the way up to vent for the water heater and the furnace and so forth too. So that's downstairs. We knock that wall out, we gotta knock that out. So that's a cost that we might not want to incur. So we're talking about keeping that there just to save a little bit of money. But we love the rest of this. Really cool old school fireplace with a wood burning stove. We're probably gonna fix that up and keep it. And this open area. Now this is what I mean by ask questions, right? Why is this beam here in the middle of the house? And why is this original hardwoods? And how come they're not on this side? Can you guys guess why? Alex. It's because this is not original finished space. This used to be the exterior of the home right here. And so this used to be a big open patio porch area like a lot of old craftsman homes used to have. So at some point they extended this out and made this finished space, which is why these hardwoods don't flow in and why there's a load-bearing wall right here. This used to be the exterior door. So Kind of a cool thing to think about. It's done right, it's all good. It's probably done sometime in the last 50, 60 years, but it's gonna mean we're gonna have to find a way to blend these original hardwoods in, or we have to rip the hardwoods out, or put something completely on top of all of it. We hate doing that when you have such a good quality hardwood, but if you can't find the matching wood to blend in, this is gonna be an issue with transition because it'll look really silly otherwise. The rest of this floor plan up here is pretty straightforward. The only thing that's super weird is this bathroom. So our lovely designer, Serena, I originally wanted to keep this bathroom as is, to save some costs, but she made a point. She's like, well, Tarl, if you sat on the toilet, you'd have to be in the tub at the same time to use the toilet. And she demonstrated that. And so that made a lot of sense why we need to change the bathroom around now. So because of that, we decided that we're going to change the floor plan in this a little bit. It's going to affect the bedroom on the other side of the rest of this property. We're gonna turn this into a Jack and Jill master / shared bathroom. So we're gonna take this tub and we're gonna move it over here instead on this side and make the tub here. Then we're gonna put the toilet here, right out of the way, and then we'll put a vanity over here. Now, you ask, how can you put a vanity here when you have this wall? That's simple, you get rid of it. This is a closet on the other end here. So on this side, we have the closet. So we have this dead space here, if we get rid of this closet, that we can then turn that into a part of the bathroom. So instead, this doorway becomes a doorway into the bathroom on this side over here. And then we put another door right here. And then you have a Jack and Jill, 2 different doorways. So the people up here can use the bathroom. And if you want to convert this into a master, they can use this as a doorway into the bathroom and have a Jack and Jill. Now you lose a closet, where do you put it? This is a pretty decent sized bedroom. We'll build a closet right here and call it a day. So pretty simple once you start to see it. How do we do all of this? Let's flash up, of course, the floor plan here. So this is showing you the as-built of what the floor plan actually looks like on this particular property and where we're standing in the bedroom that's at the front of the house. So you can see the bathroom that's sitting right there and how it's kind of janky a little bit. It's a little bit smaller, and how we're going to be able to change it around a little bit, and how the kitchen wall, you can see that little bump out that's sitting there in the kitchen. That shows where that bump out is on that kitchen wall is the chimney. So we have a lot of space in that kitchen, but that chimney is kind of an issue sitting there in the middle of the house. But if you see the proposed plans, and all this we do on Home Designer Pro, the proposed plans show we're going to add a closet where I was standing earlier when you guys can see me. And we're also going to turn that into a Jack and Jill bathroom, pretty straightforward with those 2 doors. Hope that gives you a little bit more visualization. One of the other pro tips we like to give is get somebody to draft an as-built proposed or an as-built plan set for you, especially when you're starting to change floor plans. So that makes it a little bit easier when you're looking top-down 2D on a property to be able to see how you can move walls around, change things about. And of course, always hire a professional if you don't know how to do that yourself, because the last thing you want to do is knock down a load wall, which this is a load-bearing wall, and just think you can tear that stuff out and not have the house collapse on you. Don't be that person. So, going through the rest of the property. Before we head down to the basement, this is the kitchen. We kind of like how open it is. It's big, it's huge. Here's that chimney I was talking about that we're not going to remove to save some money, but we'll have a nice L-shaped kitchen here. And we're actually gonna take this space for the kitchen as well. Serena likes these built-in shelves, so we're gonna keep those, but she decided that she wants to put the stove where this doorway is, and she'll put a countertop here. This will stay open. I think that's super cool. And we're gonna have to do something with these stairs. When we go down them in a second, you're gonna see that they're kind of small, it's kind of cramped, and that's not gonna feel good. So we're going to change the opening to the stairway here on this side. So we're gonna remove all this. This is an old junction box that's gonna need to go because we're rewiring the house anyways, because it's all knob and tube. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but that's black cloth, right? That's a knob and tube wire. Those are old school wiring that we need to definitely change out. It's even mixed. Some of this is like, got some, I don't know, extension cord stuff, cloth wrapped, right? Aluminum wire. None of this is knob and tube. That's knob and tube down here. So you got 2-3 different wiring systems going into this house, which is a potential fire hazard when you have brand new Romex over here. So electricians are gonna have a heyday with this. They're gonna love the fact that there's 4 or 5 different electrical systems all throughout it. So we got a bunch of that in. But why ask, before we go out into the basement here in any second now, here's another question. Why is this tarp even here, right? Why is this opened up? the owner of this house didn't just do it because he got bored, although there are weird people out there that do that. He was opening this up because he wanted to remodel and create the kitchen, but there's also a leak in this roof, hence the different shingle types. This still leaks. He put this here to protect the water and drain it out somewhere. So we know we have a roof issue. This was totally a porch at some point. This is all cement underneath here, right in this area. And this got additioned out at some point in the last 50 years, and it wasn't done completely right, which is why it leaks in some spots, and we're gonna have to definitely fix that area. So we knew that because we said, hey, owner, why do you have plastic everywhere? They go, the roof leaks. Good question, good thing. We need to fix that. Therefore, we need to buy your house a little bit cheaper. So let's go ahead and go into the basement. Now you can see here in these stairs, this comes in as a quick little 90 here. This is a little awkward if this is gonna be finished basement space. The stairs is definitely a challenge. You have this beautiful home that you're trying to list for a bunch of money and it sucks here, right? Why would you wanna do that? So we're gonna take these stairs, these treads, and we're gonna kick them all the way over to here and attach to this wall underneath so we can extend the stairs out further and get a much better incline for the stairs to get better treads and a whole new staircase. Now we can't change the width of this, which technically old school code, you can do this, but new school, this needs to be 3 feet. This is actually only like 32 inches, so it's not quite big enough. So we can't make it any wider because it'd just be too hard. So anyways, doing that, kicking the stairs out that way, making this the exit to the stairs is gonna change the head height going down, because right now my head comes close to hitting it, or it does hit it. So that'll completely change once we change the treads on the stairs here. So watch your step. All right, so there's that chimney I talked about. Comes all the way down into the basement. It's venting for the water heater. It's also venting for the HVAC. This is a lot of space being taken up. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But a quick glance at the basement, you can see sewer. There's definitely a big issue with this. It's this thing here. You're going to wonder why there's a sump pump in there, which we'll come back to that. But the rest of it's nice big open space. This is why we thought, why not finish this basement out? But we need to create more space. This stuff takes up too much space. There's definitely water issues, which we'll get into. You see the trench drain that is all around this thing. But one of the cool factors too is you have this closet here, right? That we're like, okay, well, is this a finished space or this not? Can we use this? Maybe we could turn it into a closet for a bedroom. It's no big deal, right? We like the space that's here. And we're able to also maybe convert that once we get the plans going for this property to be able to convert that into a possible walk-in closet for maybe a master bedroom down here. We're even talking about turning this into an extra unit suite because you have this doorway here for ingress egress that's really, really simple for people to be able to use to maybe come down here as the main entrance for their actual basement unit, right? It's pretty cool. Now, how do you decide whether or not this is going to be a master suite down here, right? Or whether or not we do a complete studio basement unit down here really has to do with comparables and it has to do with the ARV of the property, plus also what can you rent it out for, and of course, the jurisdiction that your property is in. Can you legally make this a separate unit, or maybe, not even just a separate unit, maybe just make it a mother-in-law's quarters? That you can do, an MIL, mother-in-law's quarters. So if we did make it that way, then we have this space here, we have to use this load-bearing wall. This is a good pro tip here. When you have a major load-bearing beam sitting in a basement, you don't want to move this. This holds up the entire house, right? This beam right here. So you have to build everything around these structural components to do your best to change your floor plan without touching this. Now, could you put a wall here? Yes. Can you make it a doorway? Yes. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Now, having your doorway, your wall here with this thing sitting here kind of looks awkward. So can we do our best to make it to where we use this as an actual wall? That'll save you a ton of money and engineering if you don't touch this, right? So that's the one factor we gotta look at. Another factor we gotta look at is moving this stuff. If this is a gas furnace, it needs to be vented somewhere. If we switch it to electric, it doesn't need to be vented and we can move this anywhere. This is a big 85% efficiency furnace here that, although it's pretty much newer, right, and good to go, and I really want to keep it really bad to save money, look at how big these return air ducts are and all the ducting system. This takes up a ton of space here in the basement, and to just wrap it with sheetrock and like it's going to be really, really honky and really hard for us, or hokey, and really hard for us to be able to finish this basement outright. And trust me, we sat here before this video trying to figure out, can we make this work and maybe get smaller ducting or do whatever for this type of furnace? And the answer is yes, but it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a pain in the butt, and probably cost a decent amount of money to get low profile ducting, and we still couldn't move this where we wanted to go. So I want to put a bow on floor plans, specifically in this basement. A lot of times when people go into a basement, especially an unfinished one, when you're an investor like we are and like you are, you see all this open space and you're like, wow, this is definitely a value add situation to increase square footage. But there's always a few key factors with finishing any basement and designing any floor plan in any real estate transaction that you do. In this particular one, we went over a couple of the red flags. We briefly talked about the water issues over there, and we're gonna definitely circle back to that because that's a major red flag in basements, especially this basement here. We also talked about the funky area with the furnace, right? And of course, the load-bearing beam and post that's sitting there as well. You add in those factors, you have to work around those things because eventually there becomes a diminishing cost of returns of how much more money you're going to get out of this floor plan or out of this property by removing the beam and post and tearing out all of this, including the chimney and so forth. At what point do you start to do too much work just to make a functional floor plan? But luckily in this particular basement, right, we were able to figure out a few ways to make this happen. But we knew we either needed to make that extra unit or we needed to make a master suite in order to make the ARV, after repair value, work on this property. We haven't fully decided which one we're going to choose yet because we're still reevaluating the comps and ARVs for this particular property. But what's great, the best thing that you can have on a property, in my opinion, is multiple exit strategies. And the fact that we can choose, add an extra unit, a mother-in-law's quarters, right, on the property to possibly rent out, or if we decide to flip the house, have a multi-generational household. This is a lot more valuable in this area for this. Or do we just want to make a master suite and keep our costs down because it's actually cheaper to do that, which is still a great flip, but maybe not rent as much. Both are great options. Both have different exit strategies. And I love multiple exit strategies on properties. I hope you do too. So let's go into this little area over here and go back to the water situation. So question, if you see a basement with a trench drain that obviously looks moist, not everybody likes that word, but wet, and going around, and that trench drain goes all over the place throughout this basement. Why? Let's go back to the theme of this video. Why is the trench drain there? Is it because they just felt like chiseling out part of the slab at one day because they were bored on a Saturday? Absolutely not. Water is an issue at some point in this property. There's another issue with water in this property. Oh, it's locked. Oh, it's really locked. It's locked. I got the key. I can't lock it. I gotta bend the key. Oh, it opens so easily. Security. All right. So another issue with water is that you have these stairs. As you can tell, these are cement stairs. So looking up there, when water rains or when it rains down water, there's no covering here. So, and there's also this drain we found out doesn't work. This is busted up. So water will come down these stairs, pull up here and go into the house. So that's why you have this, watch it, dude. That's why you have this ramp down here and this trench drain. That's one of the issues why water comes in. The other issue water comes in is hydrostatic. Hydrostatic is when water comes up. When the water table rises in this area with too much rain, too much moisture in the ground, it can rise up. It definitely does that here. And last but not least, we pointed outside earlier in this video about that trench that got dug out right outside this window. So when it really, really rained, water pulled up there, came in through the window area, water's coming in through the basement door here. And if it rains too much, which would in our neck of the woods, typically February, then the water rises and you have water in the basement. 3 different points of entry. Now we bought this property in the summer, and if you're like us in the Pacific Northwest, it stops raining in the summer. So you have a dry basement when you buy it, and you have a wet basement when you go to sell it or rent it out to a tenant. And that's a horrible situation to be in when the house is completely remodeled down here with brand new sheetrock, insulation, finishes, bathrooms remodeled, like everything, and it floods. Has that happened? I said it earlier. You're damn right it's happened to us. So big red flags, we look for them all the time. I'm not gonna go into too much depth because some of you guys might not live in areas about why water intrusion gets in basements, but it's something to consider in our neck of the woods. What is that thing in your neck of the woods watching this video, person, that you have in your area? If you're in Nevada, what issues continuously come up in your area? If you're in Arizona, if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, if you're in the New England area, Chicago, something in your territory is a very common issue for your properties that could be major issues if you don't know about them. What is it for you? For us, it's water. For you, it's probably something else, but it's there. So this quick thing, we also notice a sump pump, right? We said that earlier, but that's also an indicator for us that water gets in here because they got to get out. And so we know we're going to have to deal with this. So what do we do with it and how do we deal with it? We'll do an extended video on this sooner or later as well. But we do something called an interior French drain. It's where we get our guys in here, waterproofing dudes. They cut a full-on saw cut all the way out the perimeter of the entire foundation. They also then put this, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like a rubber mat that sits on top of the wall. So any water that's coming up from above gets caught in there, goes into the trench, which they cut out, and they put perv pipe and an interior French drain around the whole perimeter drain. And doing so, they take that and they kick it out to a new drain that goes out into the street, catch basin, wherever it needs to go, which is their professional with where it needs to be. Every time it's a little different, depending on how they do that. So water will never get inside the basement itself. Look it up. It's actually kind of cool. I had no idea what any of that crap was until I moved to the Pacific Northwest, but we became semi-experts on it since then. Now, to wrap this all up, guys, on this particular property, first, I'm gonna be excited to do a follow-up video of this property for you guys later. We'll do a whole analysis on it. Hopefully, we hit all our numbers. Hopefully, it sells for a lot more. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up keeping this property and renting it out. Either way, we definitely will do a follow-up video on this property months from now once it's completely finished and give you guys a cool, updated look of all the finishes and everything we decided to do, plus, of course, all the numbers. But I want to leave you guys as a recap for some of the points I went over. First and foremost, always ask questions. We went through this entire property and we asked ourselves many questions throughout this video, and we asked questions that we can ask the seller. We asked questions we can ask the realtor. We asked questions that we can ask the wholesaler, whoever's bringing us the property. And we asked questions that we can ask ourselves as we're going through these things to say, why is that here? What happened in this? Is there a challenge that I need to solve later? Now, doing so and finding the professionals and the people that can help you get the answers to those questions, or the sellers or whoever you're dealing with, is going to educate you so much more versus guessing and assuming. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So never do that. Just be curious, be inquisitive as much as possible, especially when it comes to these properties. And you'd be amazed at how many doors open up for you and how many answers you get if you do that. And my final tip on this video, and it's something that I say in a lot of the videos that we do, is spend as much time on the planning process as possible on your property. So therefore, you're not gonna have as many change orders or issues or confusion as you continue to go on to the project and start getting rehab going in on the resale side when you go to deal with either selling it or renting it out. This whole thing that we just went over with you guys came from us doing planning, my team and I doing planning. It came from us saying what kind of floor plan we're gonna do in here. We had multiple floor plan options. We went through all the red flag issues. We discovered what was going on with the roof. We started poking into the water situation here and getting our contractors out here to start looking at drying the basement out. We're planning all the processes. We went through the furnace and the water heater to figure out what do we need to do, where do we need to put it, what do the professionals say, what's best for the ARV, and spending plenty of time on that. There's that phrase, if you have an hour to cut down a tree, spend 45 minutes sharpening an axe. We do that all the time on our projects, and it took us years to get to the point where we realize that's probably the smartest thing we could do on any one of our projects. So slow down and plan out your projects as much as possible before you go just speeding into them and making mistakes like we've done in the past. All right, so if you like this video and you like more videos like them, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to the BiggerPockets channel here on YouTube. Definitely comment as much as possible. I look at those comments when I can, and I do my best through Fixated to reply back to you guys and answer your questions. But more importantly, we need to know if you want more videos like this. We're at that point right now in our business and as well as BiggerPockets to say, what do you guys need? Do we add more value? Do we do more deal analysis? So definitely let us know. Also, follow me on Instagram at Tarl Yarber. And last but not least, we got a new book coming out. Not my book, but our buddy Brandon Turner's and Brian Murray's book coming out through BiggerPockets called Multifamily Millionaire. I can't wait to buy that book. I don't even know why I have to buy it. Brandon's one of my friends. He should give me a copy. But Brandon, if you're watching this, give me a copy. So that said, you guys can buy that book coming up out here soon. Take a look at it. It's a great, great book. Can't wait. There's 2 volumes for it. And of course, BP Con's coming out here as well. That's a new BiggerPockets conference. I think it's going out in October, so be on the lookout for that. Comment, like, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next video.